Good afternoon, everybody. I am Mike Bartels, the Chief Development Officer at Becker LLC, and I am so happy to be able to speak with two of my fellow industry partners, Mike Napolitano and BJ Hoffman from Citrin Cooperman. Today, we're going to take the time to discuss their 2024 Staffing Industry Opportunity Report, which I read, and it is absolutely fantastic. Um, Guys, this is something I think that every staffing industry personnel should read. Owners, operators, managers. The content is just fantastic with great statistics for all of us in the industry to gain a better understanding of where we are today. I took a really deep dive, as you guys know, into the growth of the industry over the past 30 years, and it's amazing, and it's actually staggering how quick over 30 years everything's taken off. And with the current trends, as things are changing day to day, and different in various ways, owners need to be more aware of these opportunities that are available to them, and this report really helps. So let's start with both of you guys. BJ, I'll start with you. What is your collective vision of the state of the industry today?
Well, thanks again, Mike, for having us and hosting us. And yeah, it's been a real interesting time for the staffing industry in the last couple of years after an amazing 30-year run, which included the period during the pandemic, where there was a lot of governmental assistance flying around that benefited a lot of our clients and the staffing industry in general. Um, we've come back to reality a little bit in the last couple of years. It's no surprise I'm sure, the viewers today that certainly in 2023, beginning in the fourth quarter of 2022, there was a decline in revenues and pressure on margins. And that, 2023 was a rough year after many good years. And there was hope for 2024. There was optimism. But by and large, with the exception of a few verticals, 2024 has again seen a bit of a further dip and decline in the industry. And it's a challenging time. And it's, I think, called us to put our heads together and to become more creative and thoughtful about how we go about doing our business. So in the long and the short of it is, it's been a great run, and now it's time to do things and think about things differently. Mike?
Yeah, I echo your sentiment, BJ and Mike. It's been an interesting 2 years. We've seen certain sectors, unfortunately, feel the pain more than others. We've watched our light industrial clients over the last 2 years see a consistent decline, and in 2024 is no different. Same with healthcare. The great example I give is you have healthcare clients that have similar headcounts and they're down 20-25% just because of the pressure on bill rates. So what it's really forcing business owners to do is reevaluate their business. They're reevaluating internal costs for the first time. They were order takers for 2 years. You think about it, 2021, 22, they were just taking orders. And, we've onboarded new clients and we're looking at their internal payroll as compared to historical percentages of revenues, and you're seeing them skyrocket. And some business owners were caught flat-footed with the downturn where their overhead was ballooning to over 20% of revenues. So we've definitely seen a hit on profitability. But on the bright side, a lot of our business owners are reinvesting in their business, especially sales and marketing. They're bringing in third parties to come back in, retrain recruiters. I have certain staffing business owners that are getting back out in the field with their sales people just to get them reacquainted with the process, and we'll speak about it, but there's lots of tools out there for staffing owners to incorporate into the business. So although it's down, I'm going to be optimistic that our clients are reacting and planning, and it's forced a lot of them to look forward, which is what we're excited to work with our clients on.
Yeah, I agree. BJ, you touched on the labor market and the labor costs. The cost of labor has risen so much that billing rates at this point just cannot keep up. Where do you see this either leveling itself out, I'm sorry, or companies having to change how they deal with the workforce on a go-forward basis? Also, where do you consider different verticals that are positioned for better performance in the immediate future, and which ones are really in need of a change?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. In short, again, challenging times. Now, we're not going to touch the third rail and speak about politics, but we have the presidential election behind us now. And it, I think, is fair to say that certainly, given some of the Trump administration's policies that will in all likelihood be brought forth, there is going to be a depressing of the pool of lower skilled workers and workforce, which, basic economics is supply of labor goes down. Even if demand remains constant, prices for that labor is going to go up. So not only do we have the ambient inflationary environment for wages, but the expectation would be there that there's going to be further increases in wages. And the question is, for our staffing firms, can you pass those increases along to your customers? And the answer is maybe. But on the flip side, a lot of those staffing industry consumers are reluctant to continually pay those increasing costs because they've got a P&L to manage as well. So there's this push and this pull, and unfortunately, the staffing firms are caught in the middle. And you'll see, one would imagine decreasing margins. How do you deal with that? Well, it may be easier in certain verticals than others. For example, in the IT vertical, we see more and more outsourcing and offshoring of work to India, to the Philippines, where cheaper labor may be, available, and that's one way of dealing with those margin compression issues. On the other, look, that pressure, that endemic pressure, is forcing staffing industry consumers to look for alternatives to staffing companies. They want to do it themselves. Maybe they want to take a shot using platforms and try to source labor on their own. That may work, and that may be a reason why staffing industry revenues are down. But look, this is not what staffing industry consumers do. That's not their expertise. So I think that there's been some challenges there that will, present itself as an opportunity again for the staffing industry. Areas and verticals that still look good, skilled trades. There's been a boom of infrastructure projects out there. So just that demand is off the charts and is doing really well. On the flip side, travel nursing, as Mike mentioned, they had boom years during the pandemic, and now a lot of those consumers, hospitals, are forcing the issue and pushing back and hiring their own nurses. So it's fits and starts, and it depends on what vertical you're in, but it continues to be a challenge managing that labor squeeze, as it were.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing on our end. I'm going to pose this to both of you guys. We travel, the three of us travel all over the country, going to various conferences. I know I heard this a lot, but I want your opinion. AI is becoming such a hot topic. How do you guys both feel that this is going to affect the industry, both staffing companies and employers within the workforce? Mike?
I'll jump in. AI is at the top of the list at every national convention, and now almost at every convention, we are discussing AI. And the common theme we're hearing is people, process, technology. How do you incorporate AI into your people, to your process, and your technology? And recently at the American Staffing Association conference, I would say 60% of the vendors were related to AI or some form of technology. So our clients, especially the smaller staffing firms, are overloaded with AI and technology, but how do we incorporate, what do we actually bring into our business? So it's interesting the way they're breaking up AI, and really the different segments that they're using is talent acquisition, and what programs are available to help with the talent acquisition. What can you incorporate in AI where we can use predictive AI, AI job matching, job description optimization? So that's an example of talent acquisition. The other side is talent management, active performance correlation, employee sentiment, career pathing. And the other one was generative AI, job description writer, interview guides, assessments, matching. So it's what's great about what we do, because we work with so many staffing clients, we can actually talk to clients that have incorporated AI and share their experiences. So I think the best way is to incorporate some form of AI, some of the technology, and start slowly. And a lot of it can be as simple as email. I've had a number of clients who've incorporated AI with email. So when you're emailing candidates, it's not a generic email to 20 candidates. The AI will read the resume and make it much more personal. And the response rate is much higher than that general email. It's one example. So we find ourselves now talking to these other service providers on the AI side, because I'm interested, okay, what AI are other staffing firms using? But I think the key with AI is explaining to recruiters, it's not to replace them, it's to enhance what they can do. So a lot of the AI on the applicant tracking side is really getting rid of some of the duties, the lower end duties of the recruiters, right? That side, maybe the first experience is with AI, so you're getting a lot of that lower end work performed by AI, so that it frees up the recruiter. So I think as each trade show comes and goes, there's going to be more and more AI. And I think today, with the competitive nature of the industry, it's incorporating the right AI to help with the talent acquisition, also whatever we can do to streamline operations as well. So it's here. And BJ, I know you're experiencing the same thing.
Yeah, to wrap a bow on this, I couldn't agree more. To wrap a bow on this, I mean, to me right now and in the short term, the benefit of AI is to convert what are mundane and repetitive tasks, the onboarding, some of the interviewing, and to sort of automate that and free up your talented internal personnel to do what they do best, to deliver those insights to the customers and to to add value. I mean, that's the beauty of it, and where we go from here, we'll see. But for starters, I think that's the key.
Okay. Mike, I'm going to turn this question to you because you and I are really heavily involved in this together. With the growth over the past 4 years, which we've seen a lot of it, private equity has certainly jumped in with both feet into the merger and acquisition market, specifically in the staffing industry. As EBITDA and valuations have come down post-COVID, how are you seeing merger and acquisitions as a growth model for staffing firms going forward?
Yeah, it's a wonderful question, and you and I and BJ have experienced a fairly robust 3 or 4 year period in the M&A market. And I think M&A transactions are down 30% this year, was one of the latest information that I heard. But what we're seeing with our clients is one of the concerns every staffing firm has is the lack of organic growth, which is a common theme in certain industries. So we are currently working with a handful of our clients that are looking at M&A transactions. But you have to clearly define, why are you looking to acquire? What are you looking to acquire? What is the target? Are you buying revenues? Are you buying geographic space? Is it a new vertical? So we have a lot of clients eager to jump in M&A, but you have to have a clear path. What are we looking for? Does it make sense? We are going through a transaction right now. It's been a client of ours for 2 years who's selling. And literally this morning, he's like, you prepared me, but there is no preparing for selling your company. It happens to be a PE firm that is the intended buyer. And there's nothing the three of us can say to really prepare someone. And unfortunately, the difficulty in acquiring small staffing firms is usually the seller and their professionals have no understanding of value the M&A process. And those smaller deals can be more difficult to close because of that. But there's a number of reasons. Here in New Jersey has passed some terrible laws, the New Jersey Temporary Bill of Rights. So we have several light industrial firms. Part of their strategy is to grow their business outside of New Jersey. So we're looking for, opportunities outside. So I think it's a plan everyone should consider. But finally, I'll just leave this. Everyone talks about M&A, but you also have to be prepared for the day after closing. It's yes, we've got a transaction, we're getting to closing, but you truly have to understand the impact on your operating business post-closing. So there's a lot of planning. There's great professionals, Michael, in our industry partner group that can assist with all aspects of M&A. So and we really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun, but it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of first-time buyers actually trying to come into the marketplace now. They realize that organically they kind of hit a ceiling, and it's time for them to jump into it. And I think that's where there's going to be a lot of opportunities for expansion. So
Yeah, and the values have definitely taken a hit, over the last 2 years. The light industrial sector has definitely taken dropped in value along with healthcare and even professional services. So it's speak to someone who has experience to understand what is your strategy, what are you looking to accomplish before you just jump into any type of acquisition.
yeah, the best thing to do in that space right now is surround yourself with the right professionals, or else you're just setting yourself up for more of a headache at that stage. So, guys, I went through the entire report and I was really, really enjoyed reading the 4 opportunities. I thought that was just fantastic the way that you laid them out, and how you described everything in detail. To me, our firm, we read them, they were spot on. If we could, I'd like to enjoy and go through each discussion with you guys, just each opportunity. So the first one was opportunity number 1. Mike, this was you. In your report, that margin, you really dug into how margins were and how they were a key piece to have under control. What would be your advice to an owner and management to get a better handle today on where their margins are?
What we see with a lot of smaller staffing firms is you have a combination where you're doing direct hire and you're doing temp, and the financial statements don't break them apart. So you have internal financials where gross margin is both on the direct and temp side. So you really don't know what your margins are. So number 1 is making sure that your internal P&Ls, financial statements are correct. Are they correctly reporting gross margin? You'd be amazed, Michael, how many times we onboard a client and the gross margin calculation is incorrect. They think their gross margin is over 30%. You make some changes and you realize you're well below 20%.
Yep.
And it's important to watch your margins. Why? You're looking for margin fade. Also, are you pricing it correctly? Are you reviewing those costs where you're properly marking up, these services? So reporting is extremely important. You have the correct reporting, and also you should be looking at margins by customer. You should be looking at your top 10 customers. Let's see margins. It's data that should be readily available, and that's where we get into conversations. As staffing firms grow, you have to grow foundationally, right? You have to have the right front end and back end. Are you using Bullhorn? Are you using Aviante? Are you using the right programs? Because the bigger you get, the harder it is to make those changes.
Right.
A $10 million company versus $60 million company, changing systems can be difficult. So margin should be the driver when measuring.
I'll ask a rhetorical question. If your information, your accounting information, isn't timely or accurate or up to industry standards, how do you expect to be able to make informed decisions? Rhetorical question, but I mean, that's important. Important information is so key, and accurate information even more so.
Yeah, I agree. So BJ, the second opportunity was taxes, and it's something that I worked through that when I worked with you guys together. Your report led off with how many staffing companies are non-compliant with their state and local taxes. What do you recommend to staffing company owners and management to ensure this problem does not rear its ugly head going forward, and that they stay compliant?
So we at Citrin Cooperman, Mike and I have the benefit of seeing so many different staffing firms, financial statements and tax returns, all shapes, sizes, geographies. And, there are common themes that emerge. during, that process of review. And to be candid, the income tax and the state sales taxes, the system is complete patchwork and Byzantine, right? Unfair, but that's reality. Totally complicated, and particularly complicated for the staffing industry, who tends to have temporary workers working geographically across many jurisdictions and borders all over the place. And you'll have internal employees working remotely from states, and temps in other states, and revenues derived from third states, and it is crazy complicated. And what we find is that most of the staffing firms that we look at, in some way, shape, or form, have some kind of material non-compliance with income tax filing and reporting. And that can be a real opportunity on one hand, in that there are ways in which you can significantly reduce your tax burden if they're being done wrong. There are ways to defer paying income taxes legitimately on the federal side. One way is looking to see whether you're filing on the cash basis versus accrual basis with Uncle Sam. Most staffing firms, with some exceptions, probably would benefit filing cash basis. Conversions from cash to cash basis from accrual can yield significant immediate year losses and loss carry forwards that can allow staffing firm owners to skip paying taxes for a couple of years. We've done this any number of times in the last few years. So there's great opportunities there. But beyond the opportunities for savings, if you are viewed, particularly during either an audit or even through M&A, as a serial non-complier with tax rules and regulations, there's going to be a penalty to be paid there, whether it's fines and penalties from a state or Uncle Sam, or in the eyes of a buyer of your staffing firm, if you are viewed as flying loose and fast with the rules, there's going to be less offered for your business, or there's going to be more put up in escrow. So really important to get a look at your tax compliance to see if there's ways to save money and to reduce the exposure that you may be facing.
Wow. So Mike, number 3 was compliance. Now, every day, more and more states are regulating how staffing companies are classifying their employees. The issue, whether you have an independent contractor or a W-2 employee, can be an extremely difficult decision. What would you recommend for owners in the industry to ensure that they stay compliant in the states where they're placing employees today?
So you hit the nail on the head. More and more states are increasing the penalties for misclassification. So the misclassification simply means you were issuing 1099s when indeed they were employees. And in most cases, it's an employee. It's not an independent contractor, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is typically the case. So my general rule of thumb is if you're issuing a 1099, you should be consulting with your tax expert on does this person qualify as a 1099 versus an employee. You should really be speaking to a professional, an attorney, an accountant, to make that decision, because what people don't understand, if there is a reclassification, how costly that is. It's just not the FICA and Medicare. The IRS is also going to make you pay a 25% withholding on top of that. So you could be looking at a 35% tax assessment versus penalties and interest. So years ago, we were looking to onboard a new client, and the owner was paying their recruiters via 1099. So again, it's one of those, typically it's a W-2, one of the few examples of where you can pay by 1099 or locums. So locums are doctors. So that's a segment that you can pay via 1099.
Sometimes in the IT space as well, but really you get it wrong and it can be devastating, like put you out of business devastating if you get that classification wrong. And we still, as Mike said, we still see people playing loose and fast with the rules on the 1099 versus W-2 side.
Yeah, we see the same thing on our end. And then, we're the ones who they call when it happens. So The last opportunity, guys, was technology, and something that's near and dear to my heart because we see it everywhere we go. We deal with the technology companies. I want to pose this to you both. Um, because technology is constantly evolving in the industry, which I think would be a benefit to owners and operators to understand what technology is out there to help grow their business. Where do you see the opportunity for growth along with protecting staffing companies through technology? BJ, you want to start?
Well, I think that the key is, we touched on technology already, but so important, and this, transcends staffing, and this for, all industries. The notion of the threats that are posed by cyber criminals right now are immense. Just touched on put you out of business kind of penalties from the government if you screw up the 1099 versus W-2 issue. You get held hostage in a ransomware deal from offshore bad actors, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can be on hold. Your business can be on hold for weeks and weeks on end, and that's if you are willing to pay ransomware vendors. I can't emphasize enough. You need to do a self-assessment of cyber threats on the technology side. And if you haven't done it, or you think you're in good shape, have another look, because it is everywhere. It doesn't always make the news because people that are fall victims to this are loath to sort of mention it because it's kind of embarrassing, but it's happening all the time. So from a technology perspective, I would say focus on cyber defense right off the bat and focus on it yesterday. Mike?
Listen, on the technology side, we spoke earlier, a lot of it will be in finding the applicants and using AI to better match applicants to the job opportunity. So we're seeing more of our clients implement technology, so you're better sourcing the candidate to meet the need of your customer. Again, getting away from that filling an order to more of a being that staffing partner in filling the needs of your client. And also from a reporting standpoint, on a technology side, we mentioned earlier, is just your reporting. A lot of clients are still using QuickBooks, which works to a point, but having more of a seamless program where you're going straight from a pay rate to a bill rate, and using something like Bullhorn on the front end. We've had several clients make the move over, and usually the comments I get is, oh my God, the amount of information that is now available immediately to us about our customers is amazing. So I think it's all about capturing data and having those data points available as quickly as possible so we can make better decisions. The market's changing, technology is changing, the pace of change is happening faster and faster. So those business owners that are incorporating technology have the data at their fingertips to make decisions. The data about recruiters, we were seeing over the last 2 years, onboarding new clients where recruiters weren't even bringing in enough gross margin to cover their own expenses. And it was just because the data wasn't being looked at. So I'm a huge proponent of harnessing that technology to help stop the reactions and start planning. And I think that's really what our staffing business owners have to do, is be less reactionary and spend more time planning for 2025 and beyond.
Oh, I agree, guys. I cannot agree more. So what I wanted to first, I just want to finish this up. I just really want to thank you both for your time today, putting together such an incredible report. I think it's really important that everybody in the industry takes the opportunity to go to Citrin Cooperman's website, to go into their staffing and look at the insights page. The report is there. Put in a request for it. It's an incredible read. Reach out to BJ, reach out to Mike. They can also help you get to it, and use them as your consultant.